Now be aware, you can't do that with your black tank. You do not want to drain your black tank completely. If you do, you're going to have a mound of poop in there or a poopsicle, and you don't want to do that.
Steady through the highs and lows, closer than your skin and bones. I'll be here for you. I'll be here for you.
When it comes to RVing, no matter how much you prepare or plan ahead, sometimes Mother Nature's going to get the last word.
Mother Nature's always going to have the last say.
We usually plan up to 6 months out, and sometimes we could be booked up to 6 months out.
Yep.
And sometimes what that really means is we might get caught up in some unexpected weather. It could be a warm front coming through or a cold front coming through. And that's kind of what's going to happen to us in about 2 nights from now.
But it's going to be a freeze.
It's going to be an unexpected freeze.
An unexpected freeze that we just found out about 2 days ago.
And that's what we really want to talk about. We want to talk about some of the things that we do to protect our RV, both on the outside and on the inside, if you're caught up in an unexpected freeze. Now, we're not talking about people who are winter camping. I would assume if you're winter camping, you're prepared for winter camping. You might have skirts around your RV. You might have all the proper equipment.
You know what you're doing.
For it. But someone who is caught up in an unexpected, maybe a 1-night freeze or a 2-night freeze, we just kind of want to go over some of the things that we do to protect the RV. So first off, we're going to jump outside. I'll show you a few things outside. We'll come back in. Dina will show you a few things on the inside.
Yep.
Then we'll wrap it all up in a nice tight bow and be good to go, and voila.
And I can't wait to steal your covers.
You already did that. Since this video is supposed to be about finding yourself out camping with an unexpected freeze, I'm going to make the assumption that you're not prepared for a freeze. So you're not going to have special equipment or anything like that, but there's still some things you can do to help protect your RV and your water lines. But you also want to think about the campground. If this was an unexpected freeze for you, it's probably an unexpected freeze for the campground as well. So there's a few things we can do to protect both you and the campground. Now, as far as the campground goes, we'll kind of show you that on the inside, but it will require you to leave your hose connected to the campground spigot. Now, if you have a water filter like this, you're probably going to want to take this water filter off and just hook your hose straight up to your splitter. These water filters don't hold a whole lot of water inside of them, so they tend to freeze quicker, and they can crack or create some other problems. So it's very simple just to unscrew this, put it inside your basement, or actually bring it inside if you want also, and that way you're going to protect your water filter. We also have a pressure regulator. Now this should be okay. This is we have a freeze coming up actually in a couple nights. It's not going to be a hard freeze, but this does have a liquid in here, so I think we're going to be okay. If I was going to have a very, very hard freeze, maybe in the low 20s or something like that, I would probably go ahead and take my pressure regulator off, only if I know the campground water pressure isn't too high for my RV. If it is, I can always turn the water pressure down from the spigot, so there's just a little bit. So again, I'm protecting the campground. I'm also protecting my RV. So with this off, we're still going to have our hose hooked up. Let's go down here and I'll show you something else you can do to help protect your RV. Something else to think about is your sewer hose. Now, if you know you're going to have a hard freeze or a pretty good freeze at nighttime and you're leaving the next morning, this sewer hose is probably going to get fairly stiff. So what we would do in that situation is we would go ahead and flush out our black tanks, do all of our flushing the night before the freeze. That way there we can put the sewer hoses away before they get too stiff. Something else we do while we're back here, you can do this one of two ways. This is our fresh water tank. I have a lever right here. We drain our fresh water tank. That way there's no water in it, nothing can freeze. Now, if you need the water, if by chance you're not hooked up to the spigot, you're better off filling the tanks up. It's a lot harder for water to freeze with a greater volume of water. So you can either drain them or fill them up quite a ways, and hopefully that'll protect your freshwater tanks as well. Now let's head up towards the front of the RV. Now that we've taken care of the stuff in the rear of the RV, we came up to our wet bay. Now we happen to have an on-the-go water softener. I do not want this sitting out in the freezing temperatures. It's not good for it. There's parts in here that could actually crack, and we don't want that to happen. So what we're going to do the night before the freeze, we are going to disconnect our water softener. We will flip it upside down to drain the water out of it. I have a couple options at that point. I can either put it inside my basement, or if I really wanted to, if I was really afraid, I could go ahead and take it and bring it inside the RV itself. But either way, I don't want this out in the freezing weather. Inside our wet bay, if you have a filter, you're best to unscrew this cover, take the filter out for the night, and then you can put the filter back in the next day after the water warms up. It's not good for these filters to freeze as well. If you are worried about drinking water that's not filtered, you can fill up some bottles or an old jug of milk, something like that, the night before or before you take the filter out, and that'll give you drinking water for the night. And you can always fill up your freshwater tanks before as well and use the water from the freshwater tanks. Something else we do is we drain our gray tanks. We have 2 gray tanks, and we drain those as well. Again, the concept is there's no water in the tanks, there's nothing to freeze. Now be aware, you can't do that with your black tank. You do not want to drain your black tank completely. If you do, you're going to have a mound of poop in there or a poopsicle, and you don't want to do that. So you're going to want to leave your black tank closed. If you were borderline, if it was very, very empty, you could just put some fresh water in it to help fill it up, make it a little bit harder to freeze, but just don't drain your black tank completely. Now, again, if this is an unexpected freeze, you're probably not going to have special equipment. You're not prepared for this. But if you do have a day or two advance notice, there's a couple other things you can do. We have an outlet right here. You can plug in just a regular light bulb that puts off enough heat to keep this warm in here. Some people will also buy a very, very small portable heater and put them in their basement. I personally don't like doing that. I'm just afraid of running these little space heaters when I'm not watching them. But those are a couple options. That's up to you. Light bulb or a space heater. Other than that, let's go back inside, and Dina's going to show you some of the things you can do on the inside to help protect your RV.
As much as we enjoy our patio deck in warmer weather, when it's going to be a freeze, the first thing we're going to do is bring the ramp up, close these doors, and make sure the glass windows are completely up. Another added protection from the outside weather getting into the RV. Our garage is the coldest room in the entire RV. Believe it or not, with this bathroom door closed, it gets colder inside the bathroom than it does even in the garage. So we want to keep this door open in colder temperatures, allowing air to circulate, protecting our plumbing back here. We also have a space heater that we put in the middle of the floor to help warm air circulate a little more for the bathroom and the garage together. Another way we like to protect our RV from cold temperatures is we open some of our cabinets, especially our cabinets which have plumbing inside of them. This will allow warm air to circulate, protecting our plumbing. And don't forget to protect your bathroom plumbing as well by opening up those cabinets. You're probably going to want to think about extra blankets on your bed, maybe even an electric blanket. We have an electric blanket that we can't imagine not having in really cold temperatures. And also, don't forget your fur babies. Rodeo has a couple blankets. She also has a sweater. We've got to keep them warm too. Something else that we like to do, we like to bring our blackout shades down. Now this isn't going to make a huge difference. However, every little thing helps. Anything that you can do to keep the warm air in and the cold air out will help.
So those are some of the things we do on the outside of the RV and some of the things that we take care of on the inside of the RV. But we did save a couple of the more important things for last.
Couple big things.
Couple big things. First, we're going to talk about our furnace. Now, our furnace runs off of propane, but it does help keep the RV warm, our basement warm, and our wet bay warm as well. The problem is it goes through a lot of propane. So we try to use that sparingly. Now, what we do is we'll actually set our furnace to about 50 degrees at nighttime. Remember, we have an electric blanket, and it really keeps us really warm.
It's a good one.
Definitely. So we do try to use the furnace sparingly. Again, just enough to hopefully it kicks in a few times at night to kind of warm up our basement and our wet bay as well.
And don't forget our fireplace. We use our fireplace a lot, and to kind of offset the furnace a little bit, trying to help it out a little bit.
Definitely. You'll be surprised how much heat a fireplace will put out. So between the furnace and the fireplace and the electric blanket, we're doing pretty well. Oh yeah, and the space heater too.
Yeah, and the space heater.
We're doing pretty good. Now, something else, if you remember in the beginning of this video, I told you you're going to want to help protect your RV and you want to help protect the campground as well. What I mean by, or I should say, one way of doing that is to open up your faucets to a slow drip.
Right.
What this does is we're going to cause water to slowly flow out of your faucet. Water is harder for ice to form when the water is flowing. What's really happening kind of behind the scenes is you have water molecules, and as they're flowing, they're bouncing off of each other like this. It's harder for them to connect and form ice. Still water, water that's not moving, those water molecules are kind of sitting there, and it's very easy for ice, or I should say easier for ice to form. So just by creating a little bit of a drip in your faucet, you're creating that water or that movement. It makes it harder for the molecules to join up and form ice. And the other benefit to this too is something I just learned today, to be honest with you. By doing that, you're replacing that cold water in your lines with the water from the water source. So if you're at a campground, the water source is probably either from the city or maybe an underground spring. But that water is going to be a lot warmer than the water sitting in your pipes on the ground or in your hose.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's actually, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So by doing that, you're constantly replacing that cooler water with a little bit warmer water.
Right.
Just a couple other things, and those are some really big tips. Now, what
and
we
that's
do,
for today's lesson.
there's gonna be a test on this. So what we do is we'll do a slow drip in our kitchen, and we'll also do a slow drip in the front bathroom. Now, we could do the rear bathroom as well. That gets a little, it could be dangerous with us if we don't pay attention, because our rear bathroom, that water goes into the black tank, and that's always closed off. So if you don't pay attention to it, you could actually overflow a tank in the middle of the night. You don't want to do that.
Definitely not.
The front two faucets go into our gray tanks, and our gray tanks, the valves are open, so those will constantly flow outside. Again, we're only talking drips.
Right.
So you're probably not going to have a problem, but it does, you got something to be aware of.
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully this helps you out. Hopefully if you do get stuck in a freeze condition, you can think about some of these things and help save your RV. If we forgot anything, again, we're in a fifth wheel.
Yeah.
You know, motorhomes could be different,
Right.
and travel trailers could be different as well. So if we forgot something that you do, please add them to the comments below.
Yeah.
Help somebody out, or help out
Right.
another fellow RVer as
Pay
well.
it forward.
If you find stuff like this helpful, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button as well. It helps YouTube know that you enjoy our videos, and it'll hopefully promote them to other RVers as well.
We appreciate it very much. We hope you enjoyed today's video. We hope you have a great week. Stay safe.
Remember, always live life to the fullest.
Safe travels and God bless. See you next week.